Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Ted Seifried, Zaner Ag Hedge, and we closed mostly higher in the grains, except for a few of the wheat contracts. We were mixed over in the livestock. And Ted, let's talk about soybeans first off, because they've been kind of the price leader the last couple of days here, and we've had a pretty nice retracement off the lows. But how much farther do you think we can extend this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. It's, 70 cents off the lows in 4 days for soybeans, a very impressive bounce. A lot of that being sparked by better basis in Brazil, or their improving basis in Brazil, suggesting that they're getting more export business, but also maybe suggesting that their crushers are getting more interested in adding some coverage. You've seen in this rally, the crush margins domestically have improved as well. So some of the strength, I think, is justified. But also, we're going to have to see a rather bullish report on Friday in order to keep this momentum going. If you don't, if you have a bearish report or even a neutral report, I think you're going to retrace the retracement and potentially go back down and test those lows, really, again, depending on what the USDA has to say on Friday.
You bet. And like we said, 50% retracement levels have been reached. And so when you say we need a bullish report to keep going, what number do you think the trade needs to see?
Okay. Well, it depends on if it comes from acreage, which would be more of a new crop thing. But even if the acreage numbers come in well below expectations, that'll put more of a need to bring old crop bushels into new crops. So that would be beneficial across the board. But if it comes from quarterly grain stocks, that's a situation where May really might lead the way there. Uh, as far as what numbers we need to see, I don't know. A soybean acreage number under 87, I think, would be rather bullish for the market. Quarterly grain stocks number below 1.75 billion would be really rather bullish for the soybean market, again, especially for old crop.
The corn market has also had a nice bounce off the lows here, and of course some of it's been pushed by this China export business. Are we about done with that business, do you think? And is that what we need to keep pushing higher, or what do we need?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, the Chinese and unknown have been on just this really unprecedented string of purchases. It's seemingly every day. I think it's 11 out of the last 12 days. And you wonder, because they're also buying from Brazil. They're buying that second season corn crop for June, July delivery. So how much do they need to fill between now and then? And that's really the question, or the answer to your question. Unless they really get concerned about that second season Brazilian crop, you would think that these sales that we're enjoying to China may dry up relatively soon. But there has been some late planting in Brazil, which does push them into that hotter, drier time frame. So maybe China is concerned about that second season corn crop. We haven't seen that concern echoed from USDA's expectation for that second season corn crop, or even CONAB's. So the agencies, both ours and Brazil's, they don't seem to be worried yet. But maybe China is, and that will really, I mean, we'll see by their actions. If they continue to buy, well, that means that something's afoot, and they're worried about that second season
Right.
corn crop.
And we're kind of up into chart resistance there in corn, aren't we?
Yes. So again, moving in or hitting that moving average cluster. 50-day moving average was Wednesday's high, but then you also have the 100 and 200 day within 10 cents of that. That's going to be a fairly tough area to get up and over for corn without some really strong help from a bullish report on Friday.
Again, what do you think will be bullish on Friday? How much of this big acreage increase, first of all, do we already have kind of programmed into prices?
Well, again, Michelle, I'm really happy that the analysts looked at last year's planting intentions rather than just looking at planting the final planting numbers, because we had intended to plant a fairly large, or a much bigger amount of corn than what we actually got in last year. And I think this year we'll be intending to do that as well. So as far as a bullish number, the trade's guessing a little over 91 million acres. If it comes below 90, then look out. That is a really rather bullish for corn, bullish number for corn. As far as quarterly grain stocks, you have a very wide range of guesses. So it's hard to say what wouldn't be factored into the market. And you really would wonder, if we come in with less corn, where's it going? We know it's
Right.
not an exports. It'd have to be feed and residual. But judging by the number of animals out there, I think a miss on quarterly grain stocks is going to be a bullish miss on quarterly grain stocks by the analysts is going to be a hard thing to ask for.
You bet. So the wheat market got a big start off the opening this morning on this news. Cargill and Viterra were going to be ceasing exports, but we kind of faded it into the close. Why?
Yeah, at first, I think the market was like, oh no, does that mean Russia is not going to be able to export wheat? And that kind of goes along with the story that we had last week, that Russia may limit some of their wheat exports because of domestic prices. They've since said they are not going to do that. But then I think the market, as the day wore on, realized that, that's enough time between now and July 1st for Russia to put plans in place to keep those ports operating. Russia seems to like to take things. The government might just take possession of those facilities, and those exports will likely keep rolling. And I think the market figured that out by the end of the day.
Live cattle futures, fourth day up here, so we've kind of healed now that the banking situation is kind of, I guess, stabilized to some degree. Can we keep going here? Because it sounds like cash trade ideas are higher for this week.
Yeah, cash looks good. Packers margins are out there. Domestic demand, while we were concerned about it for a moment, does seem really good yet. So I think there's more upside potential. It's amazing how we had that banking situation as a spark for a correction in the cattle market. We were overdue for a correction. We needed one. It went right down to support in the form of that 100-day moving average, held it perfectly, and we've had a very nice bounce, as you said, 4 days in a row higher. Again, I think that technical correction was necessary. We just needed a spark. And now that that's done with, I think there's room to go higher. I do think the cattle market still has a rather bullish outlook. We know the supply situation is fairly tight going forward, at least through the third quarter, and domestic demand is hanging in there really well.
And I know you don't want to talk about hogs because we were down again today. Funds are short in that market, and I know cash and cutouts have not been able to perform. So you got this premium with the futures, but really, do we need to be down at these levels?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. You're going to say with weights declining, that means guys are more current on marketings. So you would think that the big sell-off should be over with. You
Right.
wonder how much the funds want to push a big short position. I don't think they really do. So yes, while we did give back some of the gains on Wednesday, I think we put in a nice little floor here for the time being for hogs. And I'd like to see the hogs at least see what's up above us and try to venture higher here for a little bit.
Expansion, will it be confirmed in the Hogs and Pigs report tomorrow?
Yeah, but I think so. At least that's the expectations. But how much of that's been factored into the market? How much is
Right.
that? How much of that is the reason why we had that break, right? So I think that's now behind us. I think if you get a surprise on this report, it could be a bullish one if that expansion is not as big as what we're expecting.
Very good. Thanks for joining us. Ted Seifried with Zaner Ag Hedge. That is Markets Now.